Heavyweight. I was imprisoned and deported when I entered the United States. It turned out to be because of this incident. In the past few days, Xia Hongshu's repatriation after entering the United States plus cancellation of visa plus 5 days in prison has become a hot post. The author Lu Xiaoyan used this title to highly summarize his unfortunate experience of trying to enter the United States from Brazil on a business trip in March this year. Due to work, Lu Xiaoyan went on business trips to the United States many times, but this time he encountered Waterloo. The reason is incredible. His name and date of birth are exactly the same as a Chinese scientist on the US blacklist, so he was stopped by the border inspection when entering from Texas. It was not an accident to stop him. What was unexpected was that after the US border officers figured out that he was not the scientist, they still refused to allow him to be on camera because his father had served in the army and was a party member, and cancelled his visa and served. He was not allowed to go back to Brazil to pick up his luggage and was sent back to Shanghai directly. It has to be said that Lu Xiaoyan has been implicated even though wrong birth was not his fault. It has become an eternal stalk between him and today's America. What is even more astonishing is the comment below this article. There are many people in the message who broke out that similar people who entered the United States were inexplicably deported. It seems that when Chinese people visit the United States in the future, they will really worship the Tathagata Jesus, Master Guan, etc. as Lu Xiaoyan suggested. Although Lu Xiaoyan's encounter was enough to cause disaster, after all, he has a father who is a sensitive person, and he is not an American. Under the premise that national security interests are above all else, being suspected is considered excusable. The experience of the Australian AC reported by the South China Morning Post is even more unfortunate and outrageous. AC has worked in China for 12 years. After returning to Australia in March this year, he was arrested and imprisoned. The reason is that he has provided and received reports on Australian defence and economic affairs to individuals with links to Chinese intelligence agencies. However, AC said at the bail hearing that as a marketing expert, his job is to collect and analyze data to provide his Chinese clients with a feasibility analysis of expanding their markets in Australia. His information comes from the public information of the Australian government, and he just uses his language advantages and data analysis expertise to work. His lawyer's comment is that the information disclosed by the Australian government is on a large scale. For example, in the negotiations assisted by the Australian government, national security data on iron ore reserves were provided free of charge. The Australian police also confirmed that the so-called criminal evidence of AC is indeed some open information. Having said that, AC's mistake was to provide Chinese companies with paid information that was made public in Australia. It seems that using information asymmetry to make money has also become a high-risk business. According to the analysis of the Zheobao reporter, the turning point for behavior to become high-risk was the implementation of the Foreign Interference Registration Act in Australia in 2018. Although this law is aimed at all foreign countries, it is more focused on China when it was created and implemented. Hence the tragedy of AC. A spokesman for the Australian Lawyers Union on the country's criminal law said that such a broad conviction could lead to the conviction of many innocent acts. A person commissioned by a Chinese company to conduct market research in Australia for their products may be subject to registration laws. Not only that, Barnes, a senior Australian lawyer who has handled terrorism cases, worries that AC's arrest has sparked a bad start and could lead to anyone doing legal work for a foreign country or a foreign company, including civil servants working overseas. Both journalists and journalists may become targets. And those institutions and individuals who really want to interfere can evade censorship after registering. Australian lawyer Wald's analysis of AC's crime is that another reason why AC was charged with the crime was that some of his clients were Chinese state-owned enterprises. Similar to the United States, Australia is one of the few liberal democracies that criminalize foreign interference, Wald said. AC has yet to be tried in court, and Wald worries that the court trial may not be made public. The increase in confidentiality clauses will lead to a decrease in the transparency of Australian laws. Overall, there is concern that laws may allow powerful state institutions to dictate what people do or think. It is very dangerous for governments and agencies with secret arrest powers to dictate a country's political narrative, backed by a national criminal process. Once in this situation, the government will rarely be able to abide by the principles of morality and innocence. AC was refused bail. His lawyer is worried about the development of the situation. This case will be a test of freedom and the rule of law in Australia. From the cases of Lu Xiaoyan and AC, it can be seen that the foreign interference registration not only has no effect on the effective management of foreign interference, but may also affect all people related to the enemy country, not only Chinese. As long as fair and just principles are in place, things that are ignored in the law and randomly labeled as litong foreign countries can happen anywhere. Today, Canada, a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, is following in the footsteps of the United States and Australia. Like Lucia Yan and AC, the safety and equality of Canadians are at risk. Thousands of fellow Canadians have spoken out, demanding that the Government of Canada reconsider the proposed Foreign Influence Transparency Register. The proposed Registration Act may only require certain states to register. Such selective registration would ignore negative influences from exempted countries, induce discrimination against Canadians with natural ties to countries selected for registration, and underestimate the risk of causing changes in the source of foreign negative influences over time. It is hoped that the Canadian federal government will respect and protect the equal rights of citizens stipulated in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, not to distinguish citizens by country of origin, ethnicity, religion, etc. The federal government should be asked to reconsider registration should not be based on country of origin, race, commercial and civil affiliation, much less personal opinion or speech. You can speak up for safety and equality for all Canadians by signing the online parliamentary petition. The news about the reform of the hate nationalist party has lied to us for 10 years. About 10 years ago, a piece of news was widely disseminated by various media and attracted the attention of countless people. This news is about a certain college student climbed a tree to play in his spare time, saw a bird's nest, and caught a few birds on a whim. As a result, people climbed trees and pots fell from the sky. That bird was actually a protected wild animal, so the college student was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and his family members are still appealing for him. One stone stirred up waves, and this piece of news was condensed into one sentence: a college student was sentenced to 10 years in prison for digging birds. This is simply a harsh punishment. It is too unreasonable. Just for this careless act, you will be sentenced to 10 years. Human traffickers have only been sentenced to 7 years, but they were sentenced to 10 years for digging out a bird's nest. Is there any justice? Human life is not as valuable as the life of a bird. Since then, the 10-year sentence for the college student to dig a bird has become a stock for criticizing judicial injustice and has been cited by countless people. After Yan was sentenced, his father insisted on appealing, and was invited by several TV stations to do programs, in which he said they were on the poplar tree in front of their house. There was an old stork's nest in the countryside, and a magpie's nest in the book. Wang Yijin, Yan's neighbor, said, "You look like a magpie's nest, let's dig it out." This is what their classmate told me at the time. He certainly didn't know what kind of bird it was. The child dug out a bird's nest in his own house, and the result was a 10-year prison sentence. I really can't justify it. Yan's experience won the sympathy of countless people. In a survey conducted by a well-known website, more than 88% of netizens believed that the sentence was too severe. The college student bird digging case happened in July 2014. The person concerned was Yan, a student of Zhengzhou Vocational and Technical College in Henan. During this period, Yan performed well in prison and won 3 chances for commutation of sentence. He is about to be released from prison, his father said. May continue to appeal. For this matter, many media have already made preparations, intending to use this matter to create another buzz and arouse everyone's sympathy. So what do we think? In fact, I first remembered a story. In the prison, the prisoner William asked Peter in the same dormitory, "How did you get in, buddy? What happened?" Peter said, "I was walking by the river last year, and I saw a straw rope on the ground. I thought I could take it back and use it, so I took the straw rope away, but was arrested by the police the next day." William said, "Fuck, is there any law left?" Was Peter right? He was right, but he didn't tell you that there was a cow tied behind the straw rope. Not to mention, there was a cowherd boy on the back of the bull, who was also abducted by Peter. The bird hunting case of college students has been cited by countless people in the past 10 years, but the truth behind it has not been studied deeply, and no one understands it. Today, we will solve this mystery step by step. First of all, the rare animal that Yan was involved in the case was the swallow falcon, which is extremely rare and is a second-class national protected animal. In the movie No Man's Land performed by Huang Bo, Su Zhen, etc., The reason for telling the story is that the boss of the poaching gang brutally killed the police in order to poach the falcon, and finally because of the falcon, the gangsters were beaten to death. On the black market, the price of the swallow falcon is against the sky, and the top one can sell for $100,000. Worldwide, not only in China, but also in the International Union for Nature with 128 signatories, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora also lists the swallow falcon as a second-class protected animal. Secondly, according to what the media said out of context, Yan accidentally found 16 falcons while climbing a tree, which is impossible. Because the falcon only lays eggs once a year, there are at most 3 eggs at a time, and 4 eggs are extremely rare. To find 16 falcons, Yan would have to dig at least 5 times, and I am afraid that there are only so many falcons in 100 miles. Because the falcon is a bird of prey, according to its living habits, the distance between nests is usually very far. It usually builds nests on tall trees at a height of more than 10 meters from the ground. It is definitely not easy to climb up with a ladder. Again, Yan means ignorant, but knowing the law and breaking the law. Yan, a college student who has been packaged by the media, has rich experience in poaching wild animals. He is an active member of the group Chad Henan Falconry Interest Exchange Group. He has shared his poaching results many times in chat groups and post bars. Others introduce the living habits and characteristics of falcons, released news about selling wild animals many times, and can accurately name the prey. In Yan's post, he said, "I am a hunting enthusiast, I kill a lot, will there be retribution?" That's not counting, he also showed his results. What's more, in order to hunt more efficiently, Yan actually made his own firearms and showed them off in the post bar. Of course, I estimate that this earth gun has limited lethality, otherwise, the sentence will not be only 10 years. According to the testimonies provided by the public security organ, Yan knew very well that what he dipped out was a falcon, which is a nationally protected animal and a typical violation of the law. In the end, Yan was not as simple as digging out birds or hunting them. Instead, he sold the illegally hunted falcons on the internet, and wrote in it very sophisticatedly and cryptically, "Come in and see if you understand." After hunting 12 falcons on July 14, 2014, Yan sold them to different buyers in Luoyang and Zhengzhou, making a profit of 1,080 yuan, and then hunted 4 falcons again on July 27. At the same time, in addition to poaching and selling by himself, Yan also illegally purchased the crested goshawk, a national second-class protected animal, and has a certain understanding of illegal poaching channels. In fact, the judgment on Yan is very clear. Yan committed the crime of illegally hunting precious and endangered wild animals and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The crime of illegally acquiring precious and endangered wild animals shall be sentenced to 1 year in prison. Combination of 2 crimes, it is decided to implement a fixed term imprisonment of 10 years and 6 months and a fine of 10,000 yuan. This is a legal judgment for illegal poachers. There are laws to follow and rules to follow. It is still posted on the website of the public judgment documents. As a result, it has been taken out of context by the media, and it has become the sentence of college students Donio being spread by everyone. 10 years. So, is Yan wronged? According to the first paragraph of Article 341 of the Criminal Law of the People's Republic of China, anyone who illegally hunts or kills rare or endangered wild animals under special state protection, or illegally purchases, transports, or sells rare or endangered wild animals under special state protection and their products shall be sentenced to fixed term imprisonment of not more than 5 years or criminal detention, and shall also be fined. If the circumstances are serious, the offender shall be sentenced to fixed term imprisonment of not less than 5 years but not more than 10 years. And shall also be fined. If the circumstances are especially serious, he shall be sentenced to fixed term imprisonment of not less than 10 years and shall also be fined or confiscated property. In addition, according to the law at that time, the appendix of the interpretation of the Supreme People's Court on several issues concerning the specific application of laws in the trial of criminal cases destroying wildlife resources stipulates that killing, illegally purchasing, transporting, and selling 6 falcons is considered serious. In some cases, reaching 10 is a particularly serious situation. And Yan captured and sold a total of 16 swallow falcons. Is this sentencing heavy? In fact, our laws have also been exploring and advancing. According to the Supreme Law and the Supreme People's Procuratorate, a new judicial interpretation was issued in April 2022, which adjusted the conviction and sentencing standards for crimes that destroy wildlife resources. Instead of relying only on quantity, value should be used as the basic standard of conviction and sentencing, so as to better reflect the requirements of the principle of adapting crime to punishment. Those who hunt wild animals worth 20,000 to 200,000 yuan shall be sentenced to less than 5 years in prison. 200,000 to 2 million, 5 to 10 years in prison. If it is more than 2 million yuan, the sentence shall be more than 10 years. However, what should be noted here is that it is talking about value, not profit. To put it simply, for example, I dug up the cable and sold it for 5 yuan, causing an economic loss of 10 million. The sentencing standard is definitely not it's not a matter of 5 yuan, but the value of the damage I caused. That is to say, if Yan is selling protected animals in 2022, the sentence may not be 10 years, but it is definitely not a matter of $1,000. What I want to say is that Yan's father defended his son and deliberately misinterpreted part of the truth. Perhaps it can be considered justifiable, but behind the whole incident, first of all, the unscrupulous media maliciously incited emotions and created conflicts. Intentionally taken out of context to create traffic passwords. And this content has caused a climax of the party hating the country, inciting a large number of people who don't know the truth, spreading it wantonly, and maliciously attacking the judicial system. The truth of the news should have been, criminals poached 16 falcons, a second-class protected animal, and made illegal profits. They were sentenced to 10 years in prison. This content is reasonable, but in the mouth of bad media, in order to gain attention, it becomes. A college student was sentenced to 10 years in prison for digging out the bird's nest in front of his house. It has been almost 10 years since the incident happened. The case of digging out birds has become a classic in the mouth of the party who hates the country. It has been spread countless times, but no one pays attention to the truth behind it. This reminds me of the death of a student from Chengdu No. 49 Middle School the year before last. After the incident, the leader of the Nationalist Party, that man by the cesspit, trembled with excitement, unwilling to wait a minute, and wrote a very incendiary, letting the bullets fly for a while should not be an excuse for your indifference. This article full of rumors, confusing black and white, and deceiving the public quickly became a hot topic and was reposted frantically. What is written, meaning, what? You still have to wait for the investigation and the truth, you are too indifferent, you should hurry up and make trouble. Express your dissatisfaction now. This article caused a collective climax of the National Hate Party under his command. For a while, demons danced wildly on the internet, demanding that innocent schools and teachers be severely punished. They pretended to be filled with righteous indignation, and even shed a few tears to express their sympathy for the students, but in fact they could not conceal their inner ecstasy. What they're trying to say is, truth, fuck the truth, I'll kill you when I get a chance. They don't care about the college students who dig out birds, nor the students who unfortunately fall from the building. Of course they don't care how many bowls of noodles you ate, they just want to cut open your stomach.